Wiggins and McTighe have created a framework that we will work with more later in the course. But it's broken up into three stages, and here you see the piece for stage one, in which you will write down, you can see where you can write your topic, you can write down the standards, and then also your established goals. Then in the middle, you see where it says transfer, meaning, and acquisition. Transfer are things that students are going to be able to do outside of your classroom, beyond your classroom. Meaning refers to the big ideas and understandings and essential questions that you'll be addressing during that time period. We're going to get deeper into that later, because there are 6 different facets to understanding that we need to cover. And then there are different things that essential questions deal with in terms of being overarching questions that are open-ended but can be guiding questions as well. And that's going to require a little bit of time on our behalf to make sure that we work through that so you guys can really design coherent, meaningful lessons. And then acquisition is all about the information and skills that students will gather during the lesson in the unit. These things read like more like objectives. Then also you see there more concrete things like terms and vocabulary. Then also a section for the skills that they will develop. This is stage two of the UbD framework. And this is all about where you organize your thoughts about how you're going to gather evidence of student performance. How will they show what it is that they've learned? And this needs to be linked to the standards, which is why you see where it says their common core task. You can flip that around to PA, keystone task, or whatever it is that they call it now in the state of Pennsylvania or whatever state you're going to live in. Notice that it says performance task. So this is all about the students, what they will be doing. Again, get away from objective testing. Give these young people something to do. And then what evidence will you have to show that what you were doing was effective or ineffective? And this is very true. And I want you guys to use this for your entire career. Remember this. If your students didn't learn it, it's because you didn't teach it. I'm going to say that again. If your students didn't learn it, it's because you didn't teach it. All right, this is the last part of stage. This is the last part of the UbD framework, and this is stage 3. And this is all about your pedagogy. This is your teaching plan here. So, what are you specifically doing to facilitate student learning? The W is really the what. What is the content? The H is the hook. How are you going to get them actively engaged in the learning? How are you going to excite them? The first E represents whatever learning experience that you're going to have the students doing. Again, group, watching a video, mini lesson, what have you. The R is about their ability to rethink, revise, or redefine their work. This is critical, ladies and gentlemen. Do students only get one shot in your classroom to show that they've learned or understood something, or are you going to give them multiple chances? I know some of you have said that you are coaches or have spoke to being student athletes. Others of you I know are in the performing arts. In those areas, you get multiple chances, whether or not it's in practice to get the play right, or whether or not it's in a rehearsal to make sure that the scene is perfected. You get multiple chances. But for whatever reason, in other academic classes, you get one shot on that biology test to show that you know the principles of DNA. You get one shot in algebra to show that you know quadratic functions. And then that's it. That's not the right way to teach, ladies and gentlemen. The last E in the Where To an acronym is for evaluation of their learning and your goals. This gets back to what I just said, ladies and gentlemen. If they didn't learn it, you didn't teach it. So that R also has to go back to you and you reflecting on what you've done. The T in Where To is whether or not you tailored your instruction to meet the needs of each student. That's differentiated instruction. Did you meet the needs of your students' IEP goals? Have you provided any individualized learning opportunities? Does any of your instruction adapt to multiple intelligences and different learning styles? And then finally, the O is for organization. Are you organized enough to maximize student learning and understanding in your classroom? Now, these next three slides are just written out examples of stages 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to read through them. You guys can take a look at them on your own time. But you can see there that they begin to describe and discuss the big ideas, understanding the essential questions. I want you guys to read these on your own so you can start thinking about them. And then as we start to talk about them, you guys will have some prior knowledge when we start getting into them a little deeper. So you can see there's stage 1 there. And stage 2 with the evidence, what type of performance task, and you can see nowhere along there is there an objective test. They have here labeling a map, creating a timeline, writing a slave narrative. None of that has to do with any type of objective test. And then there you see the stage 3 piece with the where to an acronym, and you guys can read over that. In terms of misconceptions, there are a few, and most notably, a lot of folks think that you need to do all three stages in order. Start with 1, then go to 2, go to 3. You don't have to do that. You can switch it up, and maybe you do start with the assessment piece. So I know that I'm going to get my students to write a slave narrative. I didn't do exactly that activity, but I did something similar, and I started with that, and then I figured out, okay, here's what I wanted that piece to look like. So that was my end result, and here's how I figured out I was going to teach that. You can do it that way. The end result is what's far more important. Do you have a coherent instructional design to maximize student learning? And this last slide, ladies and gentlemen, just kind of outlines the rest of the text as it relates to the 3 stages of the UbD design framework. Chapters 3 through 6 deal with stage 1. And again, as I mentioned, those are big ideas. Those are those essential questions. We'll be dealing with that. In stage 2, we'll talk about those 6 facets of understanding and get into types of assessment and how to create assessments. And in stage 3, we'll actually start getting into some different pedagogical skills that you guys that we can discuss. So that's what that is. That's, again, you can look over that at your leisure. And last, if you have any questions, ladies and gents, please, by all means, you can email me, or it might even be a better idea for you just to ask them in the discussion board, because you have the question. Other folks might have the questions, the same question. And as I mentioned to a few of you, when you've asked me questions, ask me anything. There are no such things as dumb questions, just dumb answers. And hopefully I'm not giving out any of those. So that's it for now. Keep working hard. You guys are doing a great job, and I will talk to you again soon.